there, everybody. I wanted to come on today and talk to you about one of my favorite things to do and something which is, a standard in my work. It's something that I really try to do with every single client that I possibly can, dependent upon the type of consultation that they schedule. And if you kind of hang around until about the middle of this video after the first example, I've got something very special for you. But let's jump right in. I want to talk to you today about the concepts of the 12th house and karma, right? We have karma in every single aspect of our chart. And in Vedic astrology, for those of you who are not familiar, we have charts pretty much for every single area of life, right? You have charts for relationships. You have charts for finances. Really, you have karma in all of those different areas. But what we like understanding when we're connecting to an individual as an astrologer is the main body of karma that that individual is here to work on. What are their major life lessons? What are they really here to integrate more so than anything else, in this particular lifetime? And to do that, I use an approach that involves two specific divisional charts, one of those being the D60, which in Vedic astrology we call the Shastayamsha, and the other one being the D1, which in Vedic astrology we call the Rashi chart. We're just going to focus on the D60 today, and we're going to focus on the 12th house. Now, the 12th house is very vital to understanding the karmic imprint on the individual, because of a few different factors. Number one, the 12th house indicates the past. In addition to that, the 12th house is one of the houses of the subconscious mind. It will tend to show the impulses that drive us. Also, the 12th house is connected to ancestors, and it's our ancestors that I like to say that tend to install the operating system that we use to run our entire life. So I want to kind of jump into this technique and show you some of the things that I do. I'm going to point out a couple of things here and there, but I'm not going to go into immense detail with how I pull all this information out, because it would require teaching you like a vast amount of information. And if you hold on until about the middle part of this, I'll share something with you in that particular regard. But let's jump right in. When I do what I call my karmic analysis with an individual, I tend to start off by making an analysis of the 12th house. And I do that through working with something that I call, house cusp nakshatras, which is actually what they would be called anyway. And so just like planets can be in nakshatras, for those of you who are familiar with Vedic astrology, so too can the indicators of houses or house cusps, right? And for those of you who aren't familiar with what nakshatras are, please take a look around my channel. You'll find a lot of information on them. So in this particular chart, which is a quote-unquote manufactured human chart, meaning I just created a chart out of thin air to kind of share with you, we have the 12th cusp in Hasta Nakshatra. So I begin my analysis by looking at Hasta Nakshatra, who the planet that rules Hasta Nakshatra is, which is the moon. And I take a look at the moon in the D60 chart, how well off it is. And in addition to that, I include something called the Shastayamsha deity for that particular planet, which in this particular instance is Puri Ishika. Puri Ishika, a good understanding of it is, you could say dirt, or as it says here, rubble, but imagine having one's face kind of pushed into the dirt. So it can create feelings of being low and then perhaps even being shamed in association with that. So in short, when we begin to assess this person's chart, what we can see is, if we want to call it previous lifetimes, we can call it that. If we want to call it karmic imprints, we can call it that. What's more important is how that drives the individual in the present moment. So if we look at this individual's chart, we can see that in previous lifetimes, they were in a situation because of wanting to create a specific life for themselves, because Hasta is about manifesting or creating and breathing life into things, they were in a position where they felt low or they felt like dirt. So we need to examine this a little bit more. And in doing that, we want to go into the main birth chart, which is down here, where you see the D1 right next to the house system thing. And we need to look and see who the 12th cusp lord is, and that's Venus. So what we need to do is we need to bring Venus up here into the Shastyamsha chart and try to understand it. And what we can see is that Venus is in what's called a Yama Shastyamsha, which means the individual, even though they felt lower than low can be, they tried to restrain themselves in regards to the actions that they might otherwise take. Okay? They tried to restrain themselves in terms of the actions that they might otherwise take. Now, when we look further at this, we see that the moon rules Venus. So we need to look at that too. And we see the Pura Ishika planet. And so they were somewhat adapting themselves to fulfill the needs of other people, is one of the things that we're picking up on here. And they restrained themselves from doing things that they really wanted to do. Now, the moon is in Anuradha. Anuradha quite often deals with matters of devotion. And when we look at Saturn, which rules Anuradha, that's in a Devagni Shastyamsha. So this person had a burning devotion or something, right? A burning devotion for something that they really wanted to do. Let's get a little bit more on that. Well, what we can see is because Venus is in Chitra Nakshatra, Chitra deals with like wanting to create great things. All these nakshatras, they deal with many more things too, but I'm just giving you simple matters in order to understand this. So the person was adapting themselves to fit a particular situation or perhaps a particular relationship, as we're going to discover here in a moment. And in order to do that, they were having to abide time and be patient. And the way we can see that is if we go in and we look at the fact that Mars here is in what's called a Kala Shastyamsha, then we can see the person wanting to exercise their will towards creating something that would have been magnificent to them. Instead, they found themselves in a position of having to be patient. Now, Mars is in Swati Nakshatra. Swati Nakshatra deals on many levels with a restless, independent energy. And when we look at the ruler of Swati Nakshatra, that's Rahu. And Rahu's in a Mridu Shastyamsha. So the person would have been more gentle or accommodating. So this person wanted to do something, wanted to create something, and they felt low about having to take certain actions in order to bring that into being. Now, I promised you in the middle of this video, I was going to tell you about something really important before we dive back in. And I'm going to do that because I thought we would do 2 examples here today, but it seems like we're only going to have time for 1 because you never know how long I'm going to talk until I get in. So for those of you who are interested, I would love to explore your karma as well through the karmic analysis of the D60 and the D1 chart and go way beyond that and take a look into all the different areas of your life that we possibly can fit in over the course of 6 sessions, which I'm going to give you 6 one-hour consultations for a total of $333. That's right, you heard me correctly. You get 6 one-hour consultations so that we can explore your karma spread out over your horoscope, right, over 6 hours for only $333. And to make the deal even sweeter, if you go for this plan, you'll also get 2 free years of Easy Astrology Society. Now, what's Easy Astrology Society? That's my online Vedic astrology learning community that gives you access to 300 plus hours of video courses where you can learn this technique, for instance. It gives you question and answer sessions twice a month, and it also gives you a monthly masterclass on various topics. So all of that, the 2 years of the membership and 6 one-hour sessions, all yours for only $333 if you go to the link above. So as I was saying, we were looking at this person's chart and we could see that they had to restrain themselves from something that they had a burning desire to do. They wanted to create something of great renown, and they had to turn their eyes away from doing so, right? Because they wanted to be accommodating. Now, who did they want to be accommodating to? We see this Venus in conjunction with Saturn. So we need to explore that. And what we do in order to do that is we take wherever Venus is and we make it the ascendant of the horoscope, right? And if we make Venus the ascendant, what we'll see is that Saturn rules the 7th from Venus and the 8th from Venus. So this person likely found themselves in a relationship where change needed to take place. In accordance with this, there was a burning energy that they had, because again, with Saturn, we're looking at Devagni energy, which means forest fire, but we can also interpret that as just being filled with a great level of passion in regards to whatever's going on with this person. Now, as Saturn is a cold planet and a dry planet, they likely had to cool down that passion. And when we look at this a little more deeply, we'll see that's confirmed. So when we look at Saturn, Saturn's in a section of the sky that's called Purva Bhadrapada. And Purva Bhadrapada deals with inspiring, on a certain level, fiery energy that equally has a tendency to get frustrated. And Jupiter, which rules Purva Bhadrapada, is in a Atisitala Shastiamsha, which means very cold or causing cold upon. And so in understanding that, this person had to cool down their fire for the sake of another individual that they were in a relationship with. So their choices were, as we can go and look at the 7th house, which is in Bharani, which is connected to Venus, they had to choose to restrain themselves for the sake of the relationship and endure the hardship associated with it, or they would have had to take a chance on breaking apart the relationship in connection to the 8th house, which is in Mrigashira, which is in what's called a Kala Shastiamsha, and hope that perhaps in the future the relationship might stand a chance of coming back together again. So when we go and we look at another interaction with Venus, I work with what are called sign aspects or Rashi aspects within the divisional charts. And so we've got an interaction between Venus and the moon. Now the moon, as we can remember, is in a Puri Ishika Shastiamsha. So Puri Ishika Shastiamshas are like feeling lower than low, or like feeling low, but having it reminded to you how low you feel. And when we look at what the moon rules from Venus, the moon is ruling Venus, so it rules the first. So we need to look at the first house Nakshatra, which is Vishaka. Vishaka is a good way to understand it is imagine being on the portal between one phase of your life and another. You have unfinished commitments in the past, and you are trying to move forward, and you're kind of straddling a line. At some point, you're going to have to make a decision in regards to which way you want to go. So Jupiter's, if we remember, is in an Atisitala Shastiamsha. So this person could have taken action to move their life forward, but instead they hesitated. They cooled their fire rather than taking a particular action. And this was the cause behind making themselves feel low. Now, if you see, we just pulled an awful lot of information out of the horoscope just by those particular factors. But what I tend to do when I'm looking at the D60 and the D1 is I go further into it and we explore your Ketu, the south node, and Rahu, the north node, and the different interactions with them in the D60 chart. We then move on from there and go into your main birth chart, which in Vedic astrology we call the D1 or the Rashi chart, and we explore the karma there. So why the D60? If you imagine the karmic energy that's in the D1 chart, the foundation of that will be in the D60 chart. So we're working through two different layers of karma so that we can more deeply understand the individual. And I think I'm going to make another video in this series where I go in and I explore the nodal axis in the D60 and the nodal axis in the D1 For now, I wanted to show you one of the ways that's so great at getting in quickly and understanding a lot of this information. And this is something I'm extremely enthusiastic about doing with my clients. And I'll tell you why. What's much more what's much more important in astrology is, rather than just understanding what and when, we need to understand why. Because all of the things that are going on in your life are happening because of these karmic points that we're looking at, right? They form the foundation of what kind of kicks off your life and causes you to behave in a certain way. So whether you're wanting to look at relationships, finances, success, the root of it is going to be here. And so if you'd like to explore this area of your life and so many other different areas of your life, again, there's that very special offer. It's only open on a limited number of packages where you get 6 one-hour sessions for $333. That's a little over $50 per session, right? So 6 one-hour sessions for $333, plus 2 years of Easy Astrology Society, my online Vedic astrology learning community, which is going to give you access to question and answer sessions twice a month, 300 plus hours of video courses, and a monthly masterclass, plus so much more. And if you're interested in this, you can find more information at the link you'll see above. That's going to do it for this look at the 12th house and karma in the horoscope. Until next time, I do hope that you take the very best care of yourself. Bye now.